TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, the IDF, in close cooperation with the ISA, or Shin Bet, retrieves the body of an Israeli hostage who was murdered while in Hamas captivity. Israeli Defense Minister Yisrael Katz emphasizes Israel's determination to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. Iranian-proxies launch rockets towards U.S. service members in Syria, drawing American retaliatory strikes. 100 hostages, to include elderly, men, women, children, and a toddler, are being held captive by the Islamist Hamas and its terror affiliates in the Gaza Strip, since those abhorrent Islamist groups kidnapped them on October 7th of 2023, 426 days ago. Amid continuous efforts to locate and rescue the hostages, the IDF, in close cooperation with the ISA, retrieved the body of one of the hostages in a daring operation in the war-ridden territory.
Tonight, I am updating that in a joint operation by the ISA and the IDF in the Gaza Strip, the body of the hostage Itai Sversky, may his memory be a blessing, was recovered and brought back to Israel. Itai was abducted from his parents' home in Kibbutz Be'eri on October 7th. His parents were murdered by Hamas terrorists, and he was kidnapped alive. Itai was held for approximately 4 months along with Yossi Sherabi, may his memory be a blessing, and Noah Argamani. In January, it was cleared for publication that both Itai and Yossi were murdered in captivity. The details of the operation in which Itai's body was recovered cannot be disclosed to avoid jeopardizing ongoing operational efforts by the IDF and ISA. The family has been informed, and we extend our condolences and embrace them in their grief.
Admiral Hagari continued by stressing that the IDF's core mission is to do everything possible to bring all hostages back from Gaza. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Minister Yisrael Katz, during a visit at the Tel Nof Air Base, acknowledged that prospects of reaching a deal with the Islamist Hamas terror organization are improving.
Regarding Gaza, the most important thing today in the war in general is to bring the hostages home. This is the ultimate goal that stands before our eyes, and we are working in every way to make this happen. I think that thanks to the intense activity, of which you are a central part, both the relative deterrence of Iran and what is happening in Lebanon and in all other places, the intensity of the pressure on this monstrous organization called Hamas is increasing, and there is a chance that this time we will really be able to advance a hostage deal and return them, and we are working on this matter and see this goal before our eyes. Of course, in the future Hamas cannot control Gaza. This is something that is completely clear because of what has happened and because of what may happen. We will not stop the war until we return all the kidnapped men and women and until we achieve our goals.
Defense Minister Katz went on to stress that Israel is still at war in 7 separate fronts, to include Lebanon, where Jerusalem's war objectives have not yet been fully met.
We are still in the midst of a war. Iran is the main enemy. Some call it the head of the snake, others call it the head of the octopus. With all of its tentacles being sent to every place, we have struck them very hard. Some were crushed, some were hit hard, and Iran itself too. Every day that passes, and we see it, it takes them even longer to understand what happened to them, what hit them, and what was taken from them.
Jerusalem's top defense official went on to declare that Israel remains determined to eradicate Iran's nuclear weapons program, which is the sole existential threat to the state of Israel.
We will act to achieve the main goal, which is the negation of Iran's nuclear capability. This is a condition in order not to allow a destructive capability against the state of Israel.
Meanwhile, in Moscow, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova voiced Russia's outrage over the Turkish-backed attack against the Assad regime, as the Islamist Sunni Muslim terror groups, to include the Al-Qaeda-affiliated Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and the so-called Free Syrian Army, are making significant gains in spite of repeated Russian aerial strikes aimed at bringing the rapid advance to a halt.
The actions of terrorist groups, accustomed to sowing chaos and destruction, have worsened the already tense situation in Syria. There is no doubt that they would not have dared to undertake such a daring action without the instigation and comprehensive support of external forces that are seeking to provoke a new round of armed confrontation in Syria, an escalation of the spiral of violence.
Despite the fact that the Sunni Muslim groups are subject to Ankara's direct influence, Russia's foreign ministry spokeswoman took note that the northwestern Syrian onslaught was launched on the very day that a U.S.-brokered ceasefire was announced in Lebanon.
It is simply impossible not to notice that this attack was carried out on the same day that the agreement on the cessation of hostilities between Israel and Lebanese Hezbollah came into force. We strongly condemn this attack, in the vanguard of which are terrorists who are recognized as such by the UN Security Council. We draw attention to the fact that among them are many foreign fighters, including those from the former Soviet Union.
Meanwhile, the Islamic Republic of Iran acknowledged the deployment of additional so-called Iranian RGC advisors to help the predominantly Shiite Muslim Assad regime push back at the rapid advance of the Turkish-backed jihadist forces.
We entered Syria years ago, when the Syrian people faced the threat of terrorism based on the official invitation of the Syrian government to help them. Our military advisors in Syria were present and are still present now. During the terrorist attack of Tahrir al-Sham on Aleppo, we dedicated the great General Pourhashmi to the security and stability of the region. Therefore, the presence of the Islamic Republic of Iran's advisor in Syria is not a new thing. It has already existed, so it will continue in the future according to the wishes and opinions of the Syrian government.
It is important to know that Iranian proxies are preparing to flood into Syria from Iraq, while the Iraqi Prime Minister Shia al-Sudani pledged that if required, Baghdad will assist Damascus by deploying the Iraqi military in support of the Syrian army as the latter continues to lose territory, including large parts of the city of Hama.
We go to where there is terrorism, where we are targeted. Where they kill Islam, we will attack them. Thanks to Allah, the situation is stable. We surrounded them from every direction, thanks to Allah. We fired at them, so they retreated.
Meanwhile, an influx of a number of Iraqi Iranian proxies, which are flooding into Syria's eastern Deir ez-Zor governorate, preparing to transit westward to assist the Assad regime in repelling the Turkish-backed offensive in the Aleppo governorate, have launched rockets towards an American military support site called MSS Euphrates, drawing self-defense strikes by CENTCOM against the Iranian militias.
This morning, U.S. Central Command forces successfully destroyed several weapon systems in the vicinity of military support site Euphrates in Syria that included 3 truck-mounted multiple rocket launchers, a T-64 tank, and mortars that presented a clear and imminent threat to U.S. and coalition forces. The self-defense strike occurred after the mobile multiple rocket launchers fired rockets that landed in the vicinity of MSS Euphrates, and mortars were fired towards U.S. forces. We're still assessing who is operating these weapons, but do know that there are Iranian-backed militia groups in the area that have conducted attacks on MSS Euphrates in the past. There are also Syrian military forces that operate in the area. To be clear, these self-defense actions successfully eliminated imminent threats to U.S. personnel and were not linked to any broader activities in northwest Syria by other groups.
The defensive strikes against the Iranian-proxies have infuriated the Islamic Republic of Iran, which evidently expected no response from the American forces over Iran's belligerence, going as far as claiming that the presence of the United States rather than Tehran's support of terror is the root cause for the latest hostilities in Syria.
This presence is considered a form of aggression and a violation of the principles and goals of the United Nations, and it is quite clear that one of the reasons for the deposition of terrorists in Syria in these years and the continuation of their presence and existence was due to the occupation by the American military forces.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to initially thank all of you who've stood in support of TV7 Israel this past year. Since TV7 Israel is exclusively donation-based, without your dedicated support, TV7 Israel News would simply not exist. If you haven't yet had the opportunity to donate this month and are blessed by our productions, please consider making a donation. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I would like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hessen wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, we will see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.